Hey guys, welcome in. Thank you for coming back to the channel. My name is Jim, and I'd like to take a little bit of time here and just discuss with you my thoughts and to get your thoughts as well on the whole term of carry comp versus ported. This is the gun that I would have to say I would really credit this current confusion with. This is the Sig X-Macro P365 XL Spectre Comp. And they call it comp because you have this expansion chamber slotted at the top at the end of the slide. So the end of your muzzle here, you're venting the escaping gases upward, and that's supposed to fight muzzle flip. Now, let's get a few things out of the way before we get into the more technical discussion of what is a compensator and the differences between that and a ported gun. There are little catchphrases that are so prevalent in the YouTube gun community that I don't use. You're not going to hear them here because I can't stand them because I feel that they're misleading. Like flat shooting or soft shooting doesn't exist. And some people use it just as a very basic descriptor because you're not standing there and you're not firing the gun and you're not feeling the concussive forces of that particular firearm in the hand. They're trying to convey to you how it feels as compared to a non-compensated or non-ported gun. And for those people, I don't fault them, because there are a lot of really, really, really good content creators in this space that have used those terms, but they're not hanging on those terms. Then you have some that just overly abuse those terms. And what I mean by that is you'll watch, and they have sat down after filming their entire, or I should say recording, none of us are using film. They've recorded their entire review or their entire video, and they're sitting down and they're editing it. And they're editing it in such a way that you can watch them shooting the gun, and they're editing in a voiceover track. And they're perfectly timing where their voiceover track is played under the shooting clip. So that means they're very specific as to what they're saying when they're saying it. And other times they're speaking as they're shooting, and they're saying, look how flat this is. And you're watching the gun just...
It is very flat. Man, that is... barely feel that recoil. Super flat.
Man, that is... barely feel that recoil.
Super flat.
Fucking out of their friggin' hands. Look how flat this shoots. It's just so flat.
Doesn't move. It's amazing.
It's such a soft shooter. It's such a soft...
It doesn't move. It does not move. It feels like cheating the entire time.
Oh my God, it drives me absolutely insane. There is no magic trick. None. That eliminates muzzle flip or recoil from any handgun of any caliber, period. You could talk about low bore axis all you want. You could talk about porting and comps and under barrel weights, all these wonderful things that we talk about. There's no magic pill that stops the gun from friggin' moving, ever. Even a 22 to some degree, is going to have a little bit of muzzle jump. And there is a difference between muzzle flip and recoil. Muzzle flip is part of recoil. And a lot of times they'll tell you, this compensator on this particular gun reduces recoil by so-and-so and such and such. No, it doesn't. The recoil is what you're feeling in the hand. Even a Laogo Alien has recoil, has almost no muzzle flip. It's very, very reduced. But you feel it coming back in your hand because there's going to be recoil. A Walther P5 Compact, you're going to feel a little bit of recoil and very little muzzle flip. So it's important that you understand why you're not going to hear those terms coming out of my mouth. It bothers the hell out of me as I watch other people's videos because I spend a lot of time watching them. Because we all get excited about new products and things like that. And what do? You go to YouTube and you search up, what about this cool the new Walther PDP with the Parker Mountain Machine Comp. Okay, boom, let's go take a look at those. And you watch the videos and people are going, yeah, man, it's got no recoil. It's shooting so flat. And it almost looks like it's going to fly out of their hands. No, just don't. So you're not going to hear that from me. What I will say is this. For the efficacy of whatever this system is, whether it be ported or it be comped, the efficacy is measured in how easily controlled the handgun is, how quickly you can get it back to zero and do so reliably. And that really is going to be a balance between whatever gases are being expelled upward and your recoil spring. Because no matter how effective the comp is, actually, let's take that out. Let's say the comp or the porting is very effective, but you're oversprung. You're going to come back to zero and overshoot it. You're going to be pushing down past zero, where you've got to bring it back up to then shoot again. So that's every bit as important. It's not just about the compensator. Another thing is compensators and ports are not going to replace your lack of skill or lack of practice. They could take someone that's already a really, 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 really good shooter and give them a little bit of an edge, make them a little bit quicker, make them a little bit better on their follow-up shots, a little bit more accurate. Their double taps may go from this to this or from this to this. And their splits may cut in half. But it's not going to take somebody that already can't control a 9mm handgun and turn them into a USPSA master. It's just not going to happen. Having good equipment allows you to more easily level up as long as you put in the work, absolutely. But it really is more about you than it is about the goodies that we strap on or drill into our particular guns. So anyway, why I have this in my hand. The P365 Spectre Comp was one of the first popular selling carry compensated micro compacts. Now you could go back into the 60s with Magnaport, who really brought to the average consumer the ability to more easily manage recoil and muzzle flip with their two little slots that they were like this little trapezoidal slot that they would cut into the barrel. And back then it was mostly revolvers. And that would somewhat tame the beast. You had a 357 Magnum. I don't care what size barrel you had or how big of a dude you were, you felt that gun going off. And if you Magnaported it, it made it a little bit more tame. And over the decades, companies have popped up And individual custom gunsmiths have come and gone that would do various degrees of porting or compensating. And then once we started seeing high-end race guns in the, I don't know, late 80s, I guess, early 90s, because the 80s you still had PPC was popular, so you had guys out there shooting, you know, multi-$1,000 revolvers with big giant aim point red dots sitting on top and stuff. And then as the field opened up into semi-automatics, and you started seeing these crazy, ridiculous race guns that people were building out of 1911s, then you started seeing a lot of innovation. But for the most part, that innovation stayed in that arena. And every now and then you would come across a dude at the gun range that would have a compensated gun that he had in his own collection. And maybe every now and then you'd find a guy that carried a Magna ported gun, or maybe something with a small compensator. Or, as Smith & Wesson made popular, they would do performance center guns that would have, I'm trying to think of which models, but there were a couple of smaller revolvers where they had a very large port done pretty much like they did here. Pretty large port at the muzzle and a tuned up action and everything, and people would sometimes carry those. But this really popularized a daily carry gun for the masses that was what they called compensated, a compensated slide. Here's my thing on that. I don't like to call it a comp because it's not really a compensator. It doesn't do the same thing a compensator does. It's not built the same way a compensator is. And I want to hear from you how you feel about that. Now, it's probably not even all that big of a deal. You probably don't even care how people classify it and they say ported or comped or whatever. It probably doesn't even faze you. And that's fine. But in a world where I feel details matter, I kind of want to get past marketing hype and talk about what the gun really is. Now, when I look at a compensated gun, it's like here, my Shadow Systems MR920 that I put the Radian Ramjet and Afterburner on. That is its own separate unit put onto the barrel. That is a compensator. There is no rifling in there. This is a huge expansion chamber with interior walls that are directing the gases in particular directions. It is a timed, scientifically measured expansion chamber. This is a barrel that stops right about where the front sight is. Actually, right behind, I think, where the front sight is. And then you just have an open expansion chamber. It's just an open area, bored out really, really large to be significantly larger than the barrel. So the barrel has room to tilt as the slide comes back. And there is a certain degree of efficacy. I do feel a little bit of a difference between this and my original standard P365, which is now this. And this is something entirely different now, and it's compensated now. But when I would fire them side by side back when that was stock, yeah, I could feel a difference. It wasn't night and day, but there was a difference. Now, when I put this comp on this gun, as fantastic as this gun is to shoot, and is to this day still one of my top favorite guns that I've ever owned, this made it so much more pleasurable. Now, it made it significantly louder, yes, of course. There is a bit more concussive, there's more explosion in your hand. You feel there's just something massive going on up there. It feels more powerful than a 9mm, but the muzzle flip is greatly reduced, and the actual recoil, I feel, is a little bit more tame. So it's doing its job. Definitely worth the price of admission, in my opinion. I would suggest the Radian Ramjet and Afterburner to absolutely everyone that's curious about getting one. It is absolutely fantastic. But that is different than just having a big hollowed out 1/4 inch in length area inside of a slide with a barrel behind it. To me, this is just a ported slide. It is going to be on the lowest level of efficacy when trying to compensate a handgun. The Palmetto State Armory Dagger Micro. This is the C1, so you don't get the little teeny tiny short slide. You get the longer slide because they do it the exact same way as Sig. They put their standard micro short barrel on there and they port the slide. By the way, Overwatch Precision. Oh, best trigger you could put in there. Anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked. This, unfortunately, is not quite as effective somehow as Sig's is. So there's still a degree of engineering in there that I don't understand, that I don't know what the difference is. But Sig's is a little bit better. It's a little bit more effective. I enjoy shooting this gun, but I rarely shoot it. I do prefer shooting this one. This feels a little bit more tame, a little bit more gentle than this one, a little easier to control than this one. And they're both relatively the same. This is a little bit bigger of a gun, so it's got a little more mass to it, a little bit more weight. They both have a TLR7 sub on there. They both have an optic. So they all have the same weight advantages that you would think, hanging a light off the end of the gun and everything. This just doesn't shoot quite as controlled as this one does. So I don't understand what the difference is. I still don't think that it's as scientific as the ported chamber inside of a true high-end compensator. I mean, this is a compensated gun from the factory. Shadow Systems again. This is CR920 XP. This has become a very popular gun. And it's fantastic. You definitely notice a difference. I had my original CR920 for years. I think for 2 or 3 years. And I enjoyed shooting it. It was a fantastic gun and a great gun to carry. When this was announced, I knew I wanted to trade up. So I sold my CR920 and I bought this, and I haven't looked back. I have not looked back. This thing shoots wonderfully. It is not the dream gun, wonder gun that some reviewers would have you think it is. It performs very, very well. But it's not, we can't just keep hyping everything as being the best, the best, the best, the best, the best. At some point, man, not everything can be the best. This was hyped when it came out as being the best of the performance center carry comps. Because remember, you had the Shield Plus, this one that came out. Then you had the standard carry comp, which was the compact polymer frame. And then you had the carry comp metal, which was the full size. They all had the same idea up here. And they took it a bit further than Sig did. The barrel is ported and the slide is ported, and they're matched up together. And everybody that had all three together said they felt the biggest difference, the most significant reduction or as they would say, the softest shooting or the flattest shooting, came out of the Shield Plus. I thought, really? Because I'm not a Shield fan. I had no interest in a Shield ever. But I liked the standard 2.0 compact. And when they announced the carry comp versions, I wanted the 2.0 compact, the polymer compact. But everybody on YouTube, yada, 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 said this was the way to go. So I got it. And I've shot it, obviously. And you guys have seen that. I've reviewed this gun. I didn't really feel much of a difference at all until I got under real rapid fire. That's the other thing that people tend to forget. To activate the comp, you want to be under rapid fire conditions. Boom, 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 boom. Not one shot, then another shot, then another shot. You're not going to feel hardly any difference at all. And what you want to gauge is how quick you're back on target, how quick you can find that dot again on the spot that you're looking at. And when I really let a few rounds rip out of here, I went, oh, okay, all right. Even in double taps, I didn't really feel like it was making a significant difference. It felt as snappy as any gun this size would. And then I went, oh, hell. Then I just kind of mag dumped once and went, oh, okay. That felt a lot more pleasurable. I enjoyed that a lot more. There was less drama going on in my hand. I like that. Let me do that again. Popped in another mag dumped that. Went, okay, that's where its sweet spot is. This wants to be run fast. This wants to be run like a friggin' race gun. And then you really feel it. So I found that quite odd. Because this one, I noticed the difference in almost every kind of shooting. This one, I only really noticed it when it was really being run fast. Now, I have a lot of money tied up in this gun, quite obviously. This gun was pretty expensive out of the factory, but I still think very, very reasonable. But this is the one that if you wanted to call it the gun to hand to someone who cannot handle recoil, that cannot handle muzzle flip, that flinches every time somebody walks by and farts, this is the gun to put in their hand. What I did was I took a standard P365. I bought the Shalotech aluminum frame, or grip module, I should say. Shalotech slide. I forgot that. I think it's called the Covert. I don't remember, but I think it's called the Covert slide. I went with Swamp Fox for the optic on there because I think it kind of looks cool with the whole way this is shaped. And then I did the Parker Mountain Machine barrel and comp. Now this particular grip frame, or I should say grip module, got to get the terms right, I opted to get the trigger guard that has the thumb rest on it. When I shoot this, it is, it's orgasmic. This barely moves in my hand. Now, I'm not going to be so bold as to say the dot has never left the window, but I've never noticed it leaving the window. I just can't seem to get that bright enough, can I? There we go. I enjoy this one quite a lot. It's not as fun to carry as I hoped it would be because it ended up being quite heavy being all metal. Now, of course, I knew that it was going to be heavier than it was before, but I was kind of used to other aluminum frame guns that weren't quite as heavy. This comp is heavy as hell. There is a lot of weight. That's why I haven't taken a TLR-7 off one of my other guns and put it on here, because this thing would be just as heavy as this. But it feels really good in the hand. And once you get that grip and you're locked in with that thumb there, oh my goodness, it is fan-friggin-tastic. It's definitely the least violent in the hand. It is, if I were to use one of these other content creators' terminology, sure, if you want to say soft shooting, I guess if there was such a thing as soft shooting, this would be it. Still hate the trigger. And I spent a good amount of money on this trigger and all the components that went with it. And that trigger's better. But anyway, this thing is just a blast, man. It is so much fun to shoot. And I look forward to seeing whatever else comes out. I have most of the popular, cool kid carry comps that are out there on the market. There's still a couple I really want to get my hands on that I haven't gotten yet. Most of the stuff that I have is either ported or comped, whether it came that way or I had to customize it and do it after the fact, because I like that. But for me, I really have this internal debate. I don't want to call this compensated. And you can't call it just ported, because ported would be like this. So here, I've got 8 ports in the barrel. And then, of course, the slide is ported as well. The differences really are going to be the fact that when you say comped versus ported, this is more of a traditional comparison here, leaving that out of the comparison. I have the full length of the barrel, then hanging off the end of the barrel, I have a separate component, which is a open expansion chamber vented at the top with interior walls built to deflect the gases in a certain direction. This, the barrel where it's rifled, has holes or slits or slats or ports, whatever you want to call them, depending on the shape, that start before the muzzle. And that's a traditional ported barrel. Now, a ported barrel works harder, as far as I've been told and as far as I understand it. So when it comes to actual muzzle flip reduction, this is going to perform better. Number one, I've got way more holes, but it's starting all the way back here. The bullet's only traveled 1 inch before it's already starting to relieve gases straight out. And it's forcing that muzzle down as hard as it can, fighting the physics of the action of the gun. It's more dangerous to the user. So if you're going to choose to carry a ported gun like this, you need to understand that you're not just getting the hot gases and the debris of unburnt gunpowder that can fly up into your face, but you're also getting some shrapnel because you're still in the portion of the barrel that's rifled. So you can have copper jacketing coming up. Not only is it going to be absolutely friggin' razor sharp, but it's going to be hot as fire. And sometimes that can come out of the ports. It's not always, but yes, it is absolutely a possibility. And it can embed itself into your skin. If it gets into your eye, you're probably going to be blinded. And because of the way this is set up, it's set up like a V. They call it V8 porting. It's shooting out at angles, not straight up. It's not an inline ported barrel. Even if I'm like, I don't care if I'm having to shoot from retention, I'll just cant it to the side. If I cant it to the side, I'm actually pointing the ports more directly into my face. So this is one of those guns that you really do have to train yourself around what you've got in the equipment. And that's going to be hoping and praying that you have the opportunity to have your support hand, if you're shooting from retention and it's tucked in tight and close to the body, hopefully that you can have your other hand up covering your face, or at least your eye. At that moment, you're probably fighting for your life. Somebody's probably trying to pull the gun out of your hand. They're on top of you. You're pinned down. You may not get that chance. So this is much more of a greater risk. Now, with the compensated guns, or any of these other ported style guns, with everything being done at the muzzle, the barrel rifling has nothing to do with it anymore. It's just the expelled hot gases. And with that can still sometimes be unburnt powder, which is going to be very hard little pellets of gunpowder. But there's a risk with everything, right? Oh, I love that trigger. Oof. Love this gun. Now, how do you feel about this? When we talk about companies that are applying names to their product, and they say that the Spectre Comp is a comped gun, hence why they named it the Spectre Comp. Or, you got there's so many examples. I'm not even going to rattle off one or two. There are so many examples. Again, here, they call this the carry comp because they want you to consider that to be a compensated gun. To me, it's not. To me, this is a ported gun. This is a ported slide. This is a ported slide. But, Sig often gets a lot of crap for their names because they end up being quite long as it is. So do you really want to have to call this the Sig Sauer P365 XL Spectre ported slide? Probably not. But I think that would be a little bit more accurate. But I think sometimes marketing just takes over. And we tend to forget what we're buying because of that marketing hype. They call something a particular thing, and we believe it. Well, it's not that we believe it. We accept it. We accept. We know that is not a compensator because it is not a separate unit being added to the barrel. But we accept that they call it the Spectre Comp, that they have what they call a comped slide. Okay, we accept that. It just feels a bit weird. I'm not saying it has to change. Please don't take that from this at all. I'm not saying Sig is wrong or PSA is wrong or any of these other companies are wrong. And I'm not saying that it needs to change. It's not one of those things where it's like, it really grinds my gears. It's just a weird thing that's come out of nowhere. And it's stuck because of how insanely popular this gun has gotten. I mean, Sig did such a fantastic job with these. When these came out, I had a couple of P320s. I would never own a P320 again. I will never trust a P320 again. I will never have a gun pointed at my junk that historically has been shown to go off without touching the trigger or manipulating the gun or even touching the gun. Now, whether you believe those incidents are happening or not, I don't care. Whether you want to argue how the holster fit, doesn't matter. But I trust this gun because the trigger system is different. It's not a fully cocked striker at all times like the P320. P320 is cocked at all times once the chamber has been loaded. And then the way the sear works, that squared off area can get rounded over time and release the striker. That's what they say is the reason behind those guns and their uncommanded discharges, I believe is what they've named it. Uncommanded discharge, yeah. This is a different trigger system, so I still trust this gun. I love this gun. And it's still one of the guns when I'm heading out of the door in a hurry. I gotta go. I don't have time to pick and choose and this and that. And I just want something that's going to be the absolute easiest carry. This is the one that almost always goes into a holster into my waistband. It's unobtrusive. It's lightweight. I know that if I needed to shoot it, I can shoot this well. I know it's going to be reliable. And it's never cumbersome. Yeah, man, Sig did a friggin' phenomenal job with this. I just think it's kind of weird that we call it a compensated gun when it's not a comp. I don't know. I want to hear from you guys. Does it bother you at all? Is it something that you just overlook and go, it doesn't change my life one way or the other? Because it doesn't change mine. Again, I want to make that clear. I'm not sitting up here like a crotchety old man going, I can't stand the way they name this. I just find it weird. That's it. Weird. It's noteworthy and worthy of some discussion. That's it. That's all it really is. And it gives me a chance to come out here and make a video and finger bang a few of my favorite guns. That's it. And I've had a chance to do that now. I've enjoyed myself. I hope you've enjoyed at least parts of this rambling conversation. And if you have, subscribe, man. So anyway, give me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. Is it just one of those things that we just accept? Or has it kind of perplexed you as well? Did it confuse you? Are you newer to guns and you're like, okay, well, I want to buy a compensated gun. And you bought this and you thought you had a compensated gun, but you didn't. You bought a ported gun. And you went home, you went to YouTube and you typed in compensated carry or whatever. And you started seeing people carrying around guns like this. You're like, what the hell is that thing? Wait, well, I know that's a compensator, but why is that different? How is it different, Jim? Well, I did my best to explain it. If it's holes or some kind of ports in the barrel where the barrel still has rifling, that's a ported barrel. If you have a device on the end that has an expansion chamber with supported walls that are built and sculpted in a certain way to vent those gases in a certain direction, that's a compensator. And then to me, stuff like this, I just have to classify as another thing. It is a compensated slide. That's it. I don't want to call it a comp at all, though. I truly want it to have a different name. I want it to be called something different because it's not a comp. It's not ported. It's not any of that. I mean, I don't know. But that's where my head has been at, which is to say about halfway up my ass. But thank you guys for tolerating it, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.